Computer Geek here. So today we're going to be working on this 7 horsepower Duromax. Now one of the things we ended up proving with the first gas-powered Power Wheel build was that the 212cc Predator carburetor and intake with slight modification will fit on one of these Duromaxes. So it is essentially basically a Honda clone. Now I've reached out to Duromax multiple times and they have refused to talk with me about it. But the fact that the parts interchange, it's kind of obvious. So what we have here is we have a Predator clone carburetor. We have our intake kit that we ordered up off of Amazon. And on top of that, we've also got our jet kit that's going to go in this. So we should be able to take this 7 horsepower up through to about 9 or so based on what this does to the Predator. The problem is, last I knew, the carb that's in this wasn't running very good. But we're going to set it up here kind of jury-rigged and see if we can make it fire before we tear it apart. Oh, that wasn't me turning it off. That was the carb that's on it sucks. So I'll turn this a little bit so hopefully you can see. But part of getting this original Honda intake to fit was that I had to bore this out and then graft a piece of plastic on the inside of here in order to make it fit to make my intake that the last Power Wheel everybody likes so much. So now the problem is, because I grafted that piece in, I can't get to this nut. So I wanted to do a side-by-side with an original and then the modified one. So you can see here how we cut out the corners for that to fit. And then you can see here how we had to punch out the dowels in order to make that one fit. Alright, so let's break this down and let's get this jet installed. And so we're just going to crack this open. You want to have a place where it's safe to let it loose when you pop it, because there's going to be gas on the inside of here and you're going to have to watch out for the float. There we are. So now we undo this and you want to leave your float intact. Make sure the base is all cleaned out. There's nothing in it that is icky and unwanted. And this goes right inside of here. So what we're going to do is grab our screwdriver. We're going to carefully undo it. Now, there's going to be a tube on the inside of this that you're going to have to watch for. And if we press it down, we should be able to turn it. There it goes. Now, like I said, on the inside, there's going to be a tube. If it drops out, just gently put it back in. There we go. So there's our original. And there's our upgrade. You can physically see the difference in person. I'm not sure if you can physically see it on camera. So remember, you got your tube on the inside. Right now is a good time to go and clean it out inside there if you're worried that you might have sucked some stuff up. In this case, the bowl looked okay, so I'm not going to worry about it. And we're just going to drop it down in there. And slowly screw it back in. Yet again, if you put this down on a flat surface, you can press your hand on it to hold it. So once you get it to that point, we're going to snug it just a tiny bit. Keep in mind it is brass. right there going into aluminum. So you don't want to go and tighten it up too bad and end up popping it. We're going to check our gasket, make sure it's all settled down in, that we didn't get any grime in it while we were moving stuff around, which is what we did there. So we're going to spray it down a bit. There we go. So now we can tip it up and set this on. Now, in theory, you want this facing out so that you can be able to get to it, because your choke goes on this side. So you want this facing out if you ever want to be able to drain it. And there we are, just hand tightened. Now we'll go throw it back on the motor. We'll hook up the gas to it, make sure it's not leaking, and then we'll go from there. So what I ended up discovering here is that Duromax, in their further attempt to not be a Honda clone, apparently use studs that are way shorter than the Predator studs. So what I've had to do is bore out where the stud goes. So on this side I haven't bored any out, and you can see that this one here now sticks out just enough to get a nut on, and that one still needs to be. Ah, the fun of retrofits. Alright, so to be honest, I'm really not sure what to expect right now, but we're going to kick the fuel on, and we're going to see what happens. So fuel's on, float bowls should be filling. You want to tap it a couple of times, make sure that it's not stuck. We got our choke hooked up and set up here with our choke guide, and we got our battery pack, and let's see what it'll do. Carburetor with upgraded jet and pod filter, take one. Alright, so what we got right now is we got where our frame comes down through. You can see it through this hole here. So we found a stud that was on the original frame there and a stud that was on the original frame there. And we set two lineup holes so that now, as you can see, if you look down through, the frame is nice and lined up. And then we come back here and you can see the original axle location and where our axle location is now. So we fit within the wheel wells perfectly. And so what we're going to do is we're going to cut this out so that we're not hitting on the transmission. And what we'll end up doing is building up to and into the back side of this over the top, so that a plate will come up here and we'll be able to bolt directly through it into the plate. And then that way we can cut this whole section out of here in order to make the sliding seat assembly that we were hoping to build. But what we're going to do now is up here in front, we've got an air-powered saber saw, and we're going to grab this and we're going to slice this area out. And I'm going to leave this inside fender well. Theoretically, the engine should fit within it, and that'll give me something to put a mud flap or a mud guard on that side, an inner wheel well, if you will, and one on this side. So we're going to be cutting across straight in here, and we're going to come into here and cut across. And the idea is to leave as much of this structure as we can for the front end so it'll support itself. And then we'll see what we can do about squaring the engine into it. So I'm sure after watching me cut this thing out that you all want to see how well it fits in the engine bay, right? Right? Okay, fine. So, as it sits right now, we got our hood down, our top on, and we got engine in. Now, we do have a couple of points here that I'd like to point out. So we fit with a lot of extra room. In fact, I bet that we could probably fit the gas tank of some sort right here. Or the battery. Either way, I need a battery location and I need a gas tank location for this. So one of the first notes is back here where the shaft goes. It butts right up exactly against what would be a firewall in a real truck. So we're going to have a problem there and going to have to clearance that. Because this clutch needs to go in right in here on the back side of the motor. The other problem that we have right off the bat is that if we grab our cone filter over here, our cone filter does not fit inside of here. So I got a couple of ideas there, and I'd like you to tell me what you think. I'm thinking we should take this bumper and we should take it off, and then we should clearance it out about 1.5 inches, which would fit this cone filter. So bring the whole bumper assembly out so that it lines up with this right here. And that would make it so that the filter would fit and we'd have a lot less cutting to do. The problem right now is that the filter actually hits on the back side of this bottom piece of lens. So I mean, we could potentially cut it out and then paint this over, but I'd like to keep it as original and authentic as I can. Hi, what do you guys think? Leave me a comment down below. What would you do? Bring the bumper out or cut stuff up or find a different filter?